My name is Emily. I'm 22 years old, and I live in Texas, USA. Before I start this story, please don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and click the notification button so you don't miss my next upcoming shocking stories. Also, tell me in the comments from which part of the country you're watching from, I really want to know. Now, let's get into the story. It was supposed to be a normal day. Just a simple trip to the supermarket. I walked in with my sister, carrying the grocery list my mom had written down. But within minutes, everything turned into the most humiliating moment of my life. Right there, in front of strangers, my own sister pointed at me and shouted, "Look at her. She's so useless, she can't even pick the right vegetables. No wonder no one likes her." People stopped to stare. A mother with her child pulled the little one closer to her cart. An old man adjusted his glasses and shook his head like I was some sort of disgrace. My hands trembled as I held onto the shopping basket. I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me whole. But it didn't stop there. My sister grabbed the packet of rice from my hand, tossed it back onto the shelf, and laughed so loudly that even the cashier turned to look. "She's such a joke," my sister added. "Mom should have left her at home. Why bring her here when she can't do anything right?" The sound of her laughter rang in my ears. The world around me spun, my heart pounded, and my eyes filled with tears I tried so hard to hide. And then, just when I thought the embarrassment was enough, I felt someone tap me on the shoulder. I turned, and what I saw made my heart stop. Cliffhanger, pause here, now let me take you back to the beginning. Growing up, my sister and I were never close. In fact, it felt like she was born to make my life miserable. Her name is Sarah. She's 2 years older than me, but she acts like she's 10 years older. She walks with her head held high, like she's the queen of the family. And me? I was always the shadow, the quiet one, the mistake she enjoyed pointing out. From as early as I can remember, she bullied me at home. She mocked me when I spoke, laughed when I tried to dress up, and rolled her eyes whenever I shared my ideas. At first, I thought it was normal sibling rivalry. But the older we grew, the worse it became. I remember one day in middle school when I worked hard on a drawing for art class. I left it on the table to dry, and when I came back, the paper was torn in half. Sarah sat there with scissors in her hand, smirking. "Oops," she said. "Guess it wasn't good enough anyway." I cried that night, but nobody noticed. My parents dismissed it as kids being kids. "That's just how sisters are," my mom said, shaking her head lightly. But it never felt normal to me. Fast forward to high school, the bullying grew sharper. She mocked my clothes, spread rumors about me, and even told my friends that I cheated on a test, which I never did. Slowly, my confidence started breaking piece by piece. Still, I held on to hope. I thought maybe one day she would stop. Maybe when we grew older, things would change. But I was wrong. That brings us back to the supermarket. That day was different. It wasn't just the usual mocking at home. It was in public. In front of strangers. And worse, it was loud enough for everyone to hear. When that tap came on my shoulder, I turned around, and my breath caught. It was my old school crush, Daniel, the boy I once secretly liked for years, the one who never even knew my feelings. He looked at me with raised eyebrows. Behind him was his fiancée, holding a cart full of groceries. His eyes shifted between me and my sister, and I could see the judgment forming already. In that moment, I froze. I wanted to vanish. My sister's laughter grew louder, echoing through the supermarket aisles. I forced a weak smile at Daniel, but my voice cracked as I said, "Hi." Before he could respond, Sarah stepped forward and said, "Oh, don't mind her. She's always this awkward. Imagine living with that every single day." Daniel's fiancée chuckled politely, and I felt my heart sink. It wasn't just humiliation anymore. It was destruction. I dropped the basket on the floor and ran toward the exit, ignoring the whispers and stares. My chest tightened, and my vision blurred. I couldn't breathe. But as soon as I reached the sliding doors and pushed them open, I stopped in my tracks. Because standing outside, waiting for us, was the one person I least expected to see. And what that person said next changed everything. When I burst through those sliding supermarket doors, my chest was heaving, my palms sweaty, and my eyes wet with tears I couldn't hold back anymore. But just outside, leaning casually against a car, stood the last person I wanted to see, my father. He wasn't supposed to be there. He told Mom earlier that morning he had errands far away from town. But there he was, arms crossed, staring at me with a mixture of disappointment and confusion. "Emily," he said firmly, "why are you making a scene?" My throat tightened. I couldn't believe those were his first words to me after watching me storm out, broken, from the supermarket. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "What happened?" No. It was blame. Always blame. Behind me, Sarah walked out slowly, smirking like she had won a prize. She didn't even try to hide her amusement. "Dad," she called out sweetly, she embarrassed us inside. Couldn't even handle groceries without crying. I spun around, my tears blurring my vision. "That's not true. You humiliated me, Sarah. In front of everyone. Even Daniel." I stopped myself too late. My father's eyebrow shot up. "Daniel? Who's Daniel?" Before I could answer, Sarah chimed in, her silly little crush from school. "He was in there too. You should have seen her face, Dad. She looked pathetic." She laughed again. That sound, that sharp, cruel laugh, felt like knives stabbing my chest. I expected my father to at least tell her to stop, but instead he sighed and said, "Emily, when will you grow up? You're always so sensitive. Life isn't about crying over every small thing." My hand shook. I wanted to scream, to tell him how much his words were crushing me, but no voice came out. My heart sank deeper. And in that moment, I realized something. It wasn't just my sister who bullied me. My father enabled it. He let it happen. I lowered my head, unable to meet his eyes. And that's when I made a decision. I would not stay silent anymore. "Dad," I whispered, barely able to control my trembling, "do you ever, even once, see how she treats me? Do you ever care about me the way you care about her?" The silence that followed was suffocating. Sarah raised her eyebrows, waiting for his reply. My father looked me dead in the eye and said, "Emily, stop exaggerating. Sarah is your sister. She only jokes around. If you can't handle that, then maybe the problem is you." Those words shattered me into pieces. I stumbled back a step, my breath short, my tears unstoppable now. The world tilted around me, like I was falling into a bottomless hole. And then, before I could say another word, a voice cut through the air. "Actually, sir," the voice said sharply, "the problem is not her. The problem is how you're all treating her." I turned. Standing near the supermarket entrance was Daniel. He had followed me outside. And this time, his eyes were fixed not on Sarah, not on me, but directly on my father. My heart nearly stopped. What Daniel said next made Sarah gasp, made my father stiffen, and left me frozen in disbelief. The air outside the supermarket froze when Daniel spoke. His voice was steady, firm, almost protective, and it made everyone stop. My father straightened his back, clearly irritated. "And who are you to interfere in our family matter?" Daniel walked closer, his fiancée still standing by the entrance, watching carefully. "I'm someone who just watched your daughter get humiliated in public by her own sister. And instead of defending her, you're standing here blaming her. Do you realize how wrong that is?" His words hit like thunder. For a second, I thought my father would explode. His jaw clenched, his fists tightened, and his face flushed red. Sarah's smirk faltered. She hadn't expected someone to step in, not Daniel, of all people. I stood frozen, my tears drying on my cheeks. A strange mixture of embarrassment and hope flooded through me. No one had ever defended me like this before. Not once. My father's voice came out low and sharp. Young man, you don't know this family. You don't know Emily. She's sensitive. Always exaggerating. My other daughter is only joking. There's no harm in it. Daniel shook his head. Joking? Sir, I've been in that supermarket for 15 minutes, and I watched your daughter humiliate her in front of strangers. That's not joking, that's cruelty. And do you know what's worse? Everyone saw how Emily broke down, and you still chose to side against her. Silence fell. My father's eyes flicked between me and Daniel, and for the first time I saw uncertainty in his expression. Sarah, on the other hand, rolled her eyes and said, "Oh, please. You don't live with her. You don't know how annoying she is. Always whining, always crying. She brings it on herself." Something inside me cracked open. I stepped forward, my voice trembling but louder than I thought it could be. "No, Sarah. You bring it on me. Every single day, you tear me down. You laugh at me, embarrass me, and act like I don't belong in this family." And Dad, I turned to him, my chest burning with years of bottled pain. "You always let her. You never once stood up for me. You never once saw how much it hurt." My words hung in the air, heavy and raw. My father looked away, his lips pressed tightly. Sarah scoffed, but her laughter was thinner now, less confident. Daniel placed a hand lightly on my shoulder, steadying me. "Emily doesn't deserve this. No one does. If you can't see her worth, then maybe it's because you've never bothered to look." My chest swelled. For a moment, I felt seen. Truly seen. But that fragile moment didn't last. Because just then, my father's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and his entire face changed. The color drained from his cheeks, his hand shook, and his voice cracked as he muttered, "No, no, this can't be happening." Sarah frowned. "Dad? What's wrong?" He didn't answer. He just stared at his phone, frozen, as if the message he read had pulled the ground from beneath him. I stepped closer, trying to peek, but he quickly shoved the phone back into his pocket. His breathing grew shallow, his eyes darted nervously between me, Sarah, and Daniel. And then he whispered, almost to himself but loud enough for us to hear. "They've found out. We're in trouble. All of us." The words sliced through the air like a knife. My stomach dropped. What did he mean? Who had found out? Trouble about what? Sarah's face paled. Daniel stiffened. And I stood there, heart pounding, realizing that this moment was no longer just about my sister bullying me. Something much darker was hiding beneath my father's words. And that was when I knew my family was keeping a secret. A dangerous one. My father's words echoed in my head like thunder. "They found out. We're in trouble. All of us." I froze. My tears from earlier seemed to dry instantly, replaced with a heavy chill that spread through my whole body. Trouble? All of us? What was he hiding? "Dad," I said, my voice trembling, "what do you mean? Who's found out? What are you talking about?" But he didn't answer me. Instead, he pressed a hand against his forehead and paced in circles like a man trapped inside his own storm. Sarah stepped forward nervously. "Dad, you're scaring me. What's going on?" For the first time that day, she looked unsettled. The arrogance. The smirk, the cruel confidence she always carried, it slipped off her face, replaced by real fear. Daniel stood behind me, watching silently, his brows furrowed. I could almost hear the questions racing through his mind too. My father finally stopped pacing, turned toward us, and whispered, "You don't understand. This family, we're not as normal as you think. There are things I've kept hidden for years. Things that, if they come out, will destroy everything." His voice cracked at the last word. I felt like the ground beneath me shifted. My chest tightened. Destroy everything? What was he saying? "Dad," I pressed, my heart racing, "what are you hiding from us?" His lips parted, as though he was about to speak, but suddenly, a black car screeched to a stop at the supermarket entrance. The tires squealed against the pavement, drawing everyone's attention. My father's face went pale. His hands trembled. "No," he whispered, stepping backward, "they're already here." The car door swung open, and two men in dark suits stepped out. Their faces were stern, their eyes sharp, scanning the area like predators hunting prey. I clutched Daniel's arm in panic. Sarah grabbed my father's sleeve, her usual boldness completely gone. "Dad," she cried. "Who are they? What do they want?" But my father didn't answer. He just kept backing away, his eyes darting like a man cornered. One of the men spoke in a deep voice, loud enough for us to hear. "Mr. Anderson. We need to talk. Now. Mr. Anderson." That was our last name. My knees felt weak. These men knew him. They weren't strangers. My father swallowed hard, then turned to us with wide eyes. "Go home. Both of you. Now." But before we could even move, one of the men lifted his hand and pointed directly at me. "She stays." My entire body went numb. Sarah gasped. Daniel stepped in front of me instinctively, shielding me. But the men's eyes didn't move, they were locked on me like I was the only person who mattered. And in that moment, I realized, whatever secret my father was hiding, I wasn't just part of it. I was at the center of it. The man's finger, pointed directly at me, froze me in place. My legs turned to stone. The supermarket's sliding doors hissed open and closed behind us, letting in the chatter of shoppers, but all I could hear was the pounding of my own heartbeat. "She stays," the man repeated, his voice carrying an authority that silenced everyone. Daniel stepped in front of me again, his shoulders tense. "She has nothing to do with this," he snapped. The second man smirked coldly. "On the contrary. She has everything to do with this." My father's face was drenched in sweat. He raised both hands, pleading. "Please, leave her out of this. She doesn't know anything. She's innocent." Those words hit me like a hammer. She doesn't know anything. Innocent? That meant there was something to know, something my father had been hiding. Something that involved me. I clutched Daniel's arm tighter. My voice cracked as I asked, "Dad, what are they talking about? What don't I know?" He wouldn't meet my eyes. The first man stepped closer, his shoes clicking on the pavement. "Mr. Anderson, enough lies. She's old enough now. She deserves to know the truth. And whether you like it or not, she's coming with us." Sarah shrieked, grabbing Dad's arm. "No. You can't take her. She's my sister." She stopped suddenly, realizing how strange those words sounded coming from her. For years she had treated me like trash, and now, suddenly, she wanted to protect me? The man's cold gaze snapped to her. "Quiet." Her lips quivered as she shrank back behind our father. Daniel squared his shoulders, his voice low but firm. "If you want her, you'll have to go through me." For a moment, the two men stared him down. One of them almost smiled, like he found Daniel's bravery amusing. "Step aside, boy. This is bigger than you." Daniel didn't move. And then, my father shouted, his voice breaking with desperation. "Stop. Please. Don't do this here. Don't involve her. I'll go with you. Just, don't touch my daughter." The words stunned me. My father, who had spent years ignoring my pain, who never defended me, was suddenly begging for me. It didn't make sense. The first man tilted his head, considering. "Fine. You'll come with us. But she comes too. No more running, Anderson. It's time." My knees buckled. "Dad, what is happening?" I whispered, my throat tightening with fear. He turned to me at last, his eyes red, his face heavy with regret. "Emily, there are things about this family, about you, that I should have told you a long time ago. But I thought I could protect you by keeping it hidden. I was wrong. And now, it's too late. The men grabbed his arm and started leading him toward the black car. Then one of them jerked his head toward me. Come. Daniel pulled me closer. She's not going anywhere. The man narrowed his eyes. If she doesn't come willingly, we'll make her. The threat sliced the air. Daniel clenched his fists, Sarah whimpered, and my father shouted again, no. Don't hurt her. And then, before anyone could move, the sound of police sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder, closer. Red and blue lights flashed across the supermarket's glass windows. The two men cursed under their breath. One yanked open the car door. We'll be back for her, he hissed. Next time, she won't have a choice. They shoved my father into the car, slammed the doors shut, and sped away, tires screeching. I stood frozen, staring after them, my heart pounding in my ears. Daniel gripped my shoulders. Emily, are you okay? I shook my head numbly. Nothing about this was okay. Because in less than 10 minutes, I had gone from being humiliated by my sister, to being hunted by strangers, to watching my father dragged into a black car while screaming that I was the one they wanted. And worst of all, I still had no idea why. But I was about to find out. Because the police cars pulled up just seconds later. And the first officer who stepped out looked directly at me and said, Miss Anderson? We need you to come with us. Now. My stomach dropped. Why me? The flashing red and blue lights bathed the supermarket parking lot in a dizzying glow. Shoppers paused with their carts, whispering, watching as the officers stepped out, their uniforms crisp, their expressions grave. Miss Anderson, the lead officer repeated, his eyes locked on me. We need you to come with us. My throat tightened. My knees trembled so badly I thought I would collapse. Daniel immediately stepped in front of me, protective as always. What's this about? She hasn't done anything wrong. The officer's gaze flicked to him briefly before returning to me. It's not about what she's done. It's about what she needs to know. And she'll only hear it from us. I felt the weight of every eye in that parking lot. Sarah stood beside me, pale and silent, for once having nothing cruel to say. My mind was spinning. First my father was dragged away, now the police wanted me. Why? What could possibly connect me to any of this? I don't understand, I stammered. What do you want from me? The officer's voice softened slightly. Emily, it's about your family. And about the truth your father has been hiding for years. You need to come with us now. Those words hit me like a wave. Truth. Family. Hiding. Daniel squeezed my hand. You don't have to go unless you want to, he whispered. But even as he said it, I knew I had no choice. If I wanted answers, this was the only way to get them. I nodded shakily. Okay. I'll go. Sarah grabbed my arm suddenly, her voice trembling. Wait. You can't just take her. She's my sister, her words cut off. Her lips quivered. For the first time, I realized she was scared of losing me. The officer looked at her with a sharp, almost pitying glance. Trust me. She's safer with us than with you. Before Sarah could respond, the officer guided me toward the police car. Daniel tried to follow, but another officer blocked his path. Only her, he said firmly. My heart ached as I glanced back at Daniel. He mouthed, I'll find you. His eyes burned with determination, and somehow, that gave me strength. The car door shut behind me with a heavy thud, and the world outside blurred as we pulled away. My palms were sweaty, my breath shallow. Every second felt heavier, darker. Finally, after a long silence, I asked, please. Just tell me, why me? Why are you taking me? The officer in the passenger seat turned slightly, his expression grave. Emily, what I'm about to tell you may change everything you thought you knew about your life. My stomach flipped. What do you mean? He paused, choosing his words carefully. Your father isn't who you think he is. And neither are you. The air in my lungs turned to ice. What are you saying? My voice was barely a whisper. The officer's eyes locked on mine through the rearview mirror. You've been lied to your entire life. You're not just Mr. Anderson's daughter. You're the reason those men are after him. And if they find you first... He trailed off, his jaw tightening. I leaned forward desperately. If they find me first, what? Tell me. But before he could answer, the police car swerved violently. Tires screeched. My body slammed against the seat. Another car had rammed us from behind. I whipped my head around, my heart hammering in terror. It was the same black car from before. They had found us. The impact threw me sideways, the seatbelt biting into my shoulder as the car fishtailed. The police officer behind the wheel cursed loudly, fighting to regain control. Sirens wailed, tires screamed, and my heart pounded so hard I thought it would rip through my chest. Hold on, the driver barked, slamming his foot on the accelerator. The car lurched forward, but the black sedan behind us stayed close, its headlights glaring like two angry eyes in the dark. What do they want from me? I cried, gripping the door handle so tightly my knuckles turned white. The officer in the passenger seat twisted around to face me. They don't just want you, Emily. They need you alive. That's why we have to keep moving. Alive. That word chilled me. Alive meant useful. Which meant there was something about me I still didn't understand. The black car rammed us again, harder this time. My body jolted violently, and the driver swore under his breath. He swerved down a side street, but the attackers followed, relentless. Call backup, the passenger yelled into his radio. Unit 49 requesting immediate assistance, suspects in pursuit, heavy vehicle contact, repeat, we need backup now. Static crackled in response. Then silence. They're jamming the signal, the driver muttered. His jaw was clenched so tight I could see the veins bulging in his neck. The realization hit me like a brick, we were alone. No help was coming. The black car pulled up beside us now, its windows tinted so dark I couldn't see who was inside. Then, with terrifying calmness, the back window rolled down. A man leaned out, dressed in black, his face masked. In his hands was a long, sleek weapon. My stomach dropped. Gun, the passenger shouted. The first shot rang out, shattering the rear glass. I screamed, ducking instinctively. The driver swerved again, barely avoiding a second shot that pinged off the side of the car. We can't outrun them like this, the passenger yelled. We need to lose them in the industrial district. Already on it, the driver gritted, jerking the wheel. The car veered down a narrow street lined with abandoned warehouses. Shadows swallowed us, broken only by the sweep of headlights. The black sedan stayed glued to our tail, a predator hunting prey. Another shot cracked. This time, it hit the tire. The car skidded, fishtailing uncontrollably before slamming into a rusted dumpster. The airbags exploded, filling the car with the acrid scent of burnt chemicals. I gasped for air, my ears ringing, my body trembling. The driver groaned, dazed but alive. The passenger fought to free his gun from its holster, but before he could, the black car screeched to a halt. 4 men in black poured out. Masked. Armed. Moving with terrifying precision. Stay down, the officer barked at me. He threw open the door, firing wildly into the night. The attackers scattered briefly before closing in again. The passenger officer grabbed my arm. Run, Emily. Now. But. Run, he roared, shoving me toward the broken fence at the side of the warehouse. My legs obeyed before my mind could catch up. I stumbled through the gap, my lungs burning as I sprinted into the maze of rusted shipping containers. The night air was sharp, filled with the stench of oil and decay. Behind me, gunfire echoed. Shouts. Boots pounding against the cracked asphalt. I ran blindly, turning corners, my heart threatening to explode. My vision blurred with tears. My father. Sarah. Daniel. Everything felt so far away now. Then, out of nowhere, a hand clamped over my mouth. I screamed, muffled and desperate, thrashing violently. "Emily, it's me," a voice hissed. I froze. The grip loosened. I turned, and nearly collapsed from shock. It was Daniel. How did you?" My words stumbled over themselves. "No time," he cut me off, his face pale and frantic. I followed the car on my bike. I saw everything. "We have to move before they find you." Tears of relief threatened to spill, but I swallowed them down. "Daniel, they said I'm not who I think I am." Do you know what that means?" His eyes flickered with something I couldn't read. Fear. Guilt. Something else. "I'll explain later," he said, grabbing my hand. "Right now, we survive." Before I could question him further, footsteps thundered nearby. Flashlights cut through the darkness, sweeping dangerously close. We crouched low, our breaths shallow, hiding between two containers. The men's voices grew clearer. "She can't be far. Orders are clear, bring her back alive. Kill the rest." Alive. Again that word. Daniel tightened his grip on my hand. "When I say run, we run. Don't look back." My whole body shook, but I nodded. One of the beams of light swept inches from my face. My heart stopped. "Now," Daniel whispered harshly. We bolted, weaving between containers, ducking under broken pipes, climbing over scattered debris. Shouts erupted behind us. They had seen us. A gunshot cracked. Sparks flew as the bullet ricocheted off metal inches from my head. I screamed but kept running, my legs moving on sheer adrenaline. Up ahead loomed an abandoned warehouse. Its doors hung crookedly, half open, like the mouth of a beast. Without hesitation, Daniel pulled me inside. The air was stale, thick with dust. Shadows clung to every corner. We pressed ourselves against the wall, trying to catch our breath. "They'll search in here," I whispered. "I know," Daniel said grimly. His eyes darted around until they landed on a rusty ladder leading up to the rafters. "Come on." We climbed quickly, our hands slipping on the metal. At the top, we crawled across a wooden beam, the floor below disappearing into darkness. My heart raced with every creak. Then, just as we reached the center of the beam, voices echoed from below. "They're in here." I clamped a hand over my mouth to stop from crying out. Daniel squeezed my knee, signaling me to stay silent. The men spread out, their flashlights slicing through the shadows. And then, one of them looked up. The beam of light landed directly on me. "Up there." Gunfire erupted. The wood beneath me splintered. I screamed as the beam cracked under my weight, and suddenly, I was falling. The scream ripped from my throat as the beam gave way beneath me. For a moment, it felt like time slowed, like I was suspended in midair. Then gravity claimed me. I crashed onto the dusty concrete floor with a sickening thud. Pain exploded through my side, knocking the air out of my lungs. I tried to breathe, but my chest burned, every gasp shallow and ragged. "Emily!" Daniel's voice boomed from above. He scrambled down the ladder, his movements frantic. Before he could reach me, flashlights blazed into my face. Boots stomped closer. The masked men had found me. "Stay down," one of them barked. Another pointed his gun straight at my chest. Daniel slid in front of me, spreading his arms like a shield. His voice shook, but it was fierce. "If you want her, you'll have to go through me." The leader of the group stepped forward. He was taller than the rest, his mask pulled lower, revealing a scar running from his ear to his jaw. His eyes locked on me, cold and calculating. "She's coming with us," he said flatly. "Alive." Daniel's hands curled into fists. "Over my dead body." The man smirked. That can be arranged. The sound of cocked guns echoed around the warehouse. My heart pounded. This was it, this was how I was going to die. Then, from somewhere outside, a blaring siren pierced the night. Red and blue lights flooded through the broken windows. Police! Drop your weapons, a booming voice commanded. Chaos erupted. The masked men scattered, some firing blindly toward the doors while others tried to retreat through the back exit. The leader didn't flinch. He grabbed my arm roughly, yanking me to my feet. I cried out, struggling against his iron grip. Daniel lunged at him, tackling him to the ground. The gun skidded across the floor. "Run, Emily!" Daniel roared, wrestling with the man. I staggered backward, torn between fleeing and helping him. But before I could move, another masked man grabbed me from behind. His gloved hand clamped over my mouth, muffling my scream. "Got her," he shouted, dragging me toward the shadows. "No." I kicked and thrashed, my nails clawing at his arm. My chest heaved with panic as the world blurred around me. Suddenly, a shot rang out. The grip on me loosened. The man collapsed at my feet. I turned to see the officer from before, the one who had driven the car, limping heavily into the warehouse, his gun smoking. Blood stained his uniform, but his eyes burned with determination. "Emily, move," he shouted. I ran to him, my legs trembling but desperate. He shoved me behind him, firing at the retreating figures. But the leader wasn't finished. He surged up from the ground, tackling Daniel again, his hands locked around his throat. Daniel gasped, his face turning red as he fought for air. I screamed, frozen in terror. And then, in a voice dripping with venom, the leader snarled, "She doesn't even know who she is, does she?" The words hit me like ice water. My entire body went still. Daniel's eyes widened in horror. He thrashed harder, trying to silence the man. But it was too late, the words had already lodged in my mind. Who I am? What did he mean? Before I could process, the officer fired again. The bullet tore through the leader's shoulder, sending him crashing to the floor. He growled in pain but managed to crawl toward the shadows before disappearing into the night. The warehouse fell into a tense silence, broken only by Daniel's ragged coughing and the officer's heavy breathing. I stood frozen, my hands shaking violently. My mind replayed the leader's words over and over. She doesn't even know who she is. Daniel stumbled to his feet, avoiding my gaze. His hands trembled as he wiped the blood from his mouth. "Daniel," my voice cracked. What did he mean? He didn't answer. I stepped closer, my chest heaving. "Daniel, tell me the truth. What did he mean?" His jaw tightened. His eyes glistened with something that looked like guilt. "I can't," he whispered. I felt like the floor dropped beneath me again. My knees weakened. "You know," I breathed. "You know something about me, don't you?" He looked at me then, his face torn apart by conflict. "I wanted to tell you," he said, his voice breaking. "But if I did, you'd never look at me the same way again." My stomach twisted. My best friend, my only safe place left, had been keeping secrets from me. The officer's voice broke through the suffocating silence. "We can't stay here. They'll regroup. We need to move." But I barely heard him. My world was spinning too fast. My heart was breaking in ways I couldn't explain. Daniel reached for me, his hand trembling. "Emily, please. Trust me." I stared at him, my vision blurry with tears. My voice came out hoarse and trembling. "How can I trust you, when you're hiding the truth about who I am?" The silence that followed was heavier than any gunshot, any scream. Daniel's lips parted, like he was finally about to confess. But before he could speak, the sound of heavy boots echoed again. They were back. Dozens of them. This time, there would be no easy escape. The sound of boots echoed like thunder against the cracked walls of the warehouse. My heart plummeted as I turned toward the entrance. Dozens of masked men poured in, their guns raised, their eyes cold. The red and blue glow of the abandoned police lights outside flickered through the dusty windows, casting eerie shadows across their faces. We were surrounded. The officer, bloodied and staggering, raised his weapon anyway. His voice was hoarse but unshaken. "Stay behind me." Daniel moved closer, shielding me again. His body trembled, but not from fear, from fury. His jaw was clenched so tightly I could see the veins in his neck. The leader stepped forward. His shoulder was bleeding where the bullet had ripped through earlier, but he moved with chilling calmness. His scarred face twisted into something that wasn't quite a smile. "You should have run farther," he said, his voice low and venomous. "But then again, there's nowhere safe for her." His eyes flicked to me. My breath caught in my throat. "What do you want from me?" I forced the words out, though my voice shook. The leader tilted his head, studying me like I was some strange puzzle piece. "What I want isn't nearly as important as what they want." He gestured toward the man behind him. "You see, girl, you don't even realize what you are. That's the problem." The officer fired, cutting his words short. The shot grazed one of the men, sending him stumbling back. Gunfire erupted in response. "Get down." Daniel yanked me to the floor. Bullets ricocheted off the concrete pillars, sparks flying. The smell of smoke and gunpowder filled the air, thick and suffocating. I curled against the ground, my ears ringing from the shots. My hands trembled uncontrollably as I tried to cover my head. Daniel crouched beside me, his body pressed against mine protectively. "Emily, listen to me," he said, his voice fierce over the chaos. "No matter what happens, you can't let them take you. Do you understand?" Tears blurred my vision. "Why, Daniel? Why me?" His eyes softened for the briefest moment, even as the war around us raged on. "Because you're not who you think you are." The words stole my breath. Before I could push him further, the officer shouted, "Move. Back exit." He fired another shot, creating a small opening in the attacker's formation. Daniel grabbed my hand and pulled me to my feet. We sprinted toward the back of the warehouse, weaving through crates and broken machinery. Bullets whizzed past, some so close I could feel the air shift. But as we reached the exit, two masked men blocked our path. Daniel swung wildly, knocking one to the ground, but the other slammed the butt of his rifle into his chest. Daniel staggered back, gasping for air. I screamed, lashing out instinctively. My nails clawed at the man's mask, ripping it half off. For a split second, his face was exposed. And what I saw froze me completely. It wasn't a stranger. It was someone I knew. Someone from my past. His eyes widened in recognition too, and his grip on me faltered. "She doesn't know," he muttered under his breath. Before I could react, Daniel tackled him to the ground. The officer appeared behind us, firing again, clearing the path. "Run," he barked. We stumbled out into the cold night air, the sound of gunfire still rattling inside. My chest heaved as we sprinted into the darkness, my legs screaming with exhaustion. Finally, after what felt like miles, we collapsed behind an abandoned truck in the outskirts of the lot. The officer slumped against the metal, his face pale. He was bleeding heavily now, his breath shallow. "I can't keep going," he rasped. "No." I grabbed his arm desperately. "You have to." He shook his head. His eyes locked on mine with an intensity that sent chills down my spine. "Emily, listen. There's something you need to know. The reason they're after you." His voice broke. Blood bubbled at his lips. He coughed violently, struggling to speak. Daniel gripped his shoulder, trying to hold him upright. "Don't talk. Save your strength." But the officer shook his head again, weakly. His hand reached out, trembling, and pressed something cold and metallic into my palm. I looked down, it was a locket. Old, tarnished, but engraved with strange initials. My heart pounded as he whispered, this belongs to you. It's the key to everything. His eyes fluttered shut. His chest stilled. No. I shook him, panic clawing at me. Wake up. Please, wake up. But he was gone. Daniel pulled me back, his face pale with grief. But his eyes burned with something else, resolve. Emily, he said quietly, firmly. We can't stay. They'll be here any second. And now they know you have that. I looked down at the locket in my hand, my reflection glinting faintly in its cracked surface. My hand shook as I clutched it tighter. What is this, Daniel? What does it mean? He hesitated. His eyes darkened with the weight of truths he had carried for too long. Finally, his lips parted. It means, he whispered, that the man you've called your father all these years, isn't your father. The words slammed into me like a punch. My entire world tilted on its axis. Before I could respond, a gunshot cracked the air. The bullet hit the truck just inches from my head. They had found us again. The gunshot echoed in the night, a terrifying reminder that we were still hunted. Daniel grabbed my hand and yanked me away from the truck, our footsteps pounding against the cracked pavement as more bullets sprayed around us. Keep moving, he shouted. His voice was rough, urgent. The locket burned in my palm as I clenched it tightly, my chest heaving with every breath. Questions swirled like a storm in my head, but there was no time to ask them. Not yet. We darted between rusted cars and broken-down machinery until we found a gap in the chain-link fence at the far end of the lot. Daniel pushed me through first, then followed, his shirt torn and smeared with blood from earlier fights. Behind us, voices barked orders. Flashlights bobbed in the dark like predatory eyes. We stumbled into a wooded area, the trees swallowing us whole. The gunfire grew distant, replaced by the sounds of crickets and the crunch of leaves beneath our feet. Finally, after what felt like forever, Daniel slowed down, leaning against a tree, his chest heaving. We should be safe here, for now, he said between breaths. I collapsed onto the ground, my legs trembling. My fingers curled around the locket, my eyes fixed on its faded surface. You need to tell me the truth, Daniel, I whispered. My voice shook, but it carried a weight I couldn't ignore anymore. You said he wasn't my father. You've been hiding this. I deserve to know. Daniel wiped the sweat from his brow, his eyes avoiding mine. His silence cut deeper than any blade. Finally, he spoke, his voice low. You're right. You do deserve to know. But once you hear it, there's no going back. I stared at him, my chest aching. Tell me. He sighed heavily, sinking to the ground beside me. The moonlight filtered through the branches, illuminating his face. For the first time, I noticed how much pain lived in his eyes. Emily, he began slowly, the man you've called your father all your life, he adopted you. He raised you as his own, but you're not his biological daughter. The words sliced through me. My breath caught. My mind spun. Adopted? That's impossible, my mom, she. Daniel shook his head. Your mom never knew. She was told you were hers after a complicated birth. But the truth is, you were placed with them for protection. Protection? I whispered. My hands trembled. Daniel nodded. You come from a family that was powerful and dangerous. Your real father was involved in things that put everyone around him at risk. When you were born, there was already a target on your head. Your adoptive dad agreed to take you, to raise you as his own, to keep you safe. Tears welled in my eyes. I shook my head violently. No, no, you're lying. That can't be true. Daniel's voice broke. I wish I was. But it's why those men want you now. It's why they won't stop hunting you. You're the last piece of a war that started long before you were even old enough to walk. My chest tightened until it hurt to breathe. So who am I, really? Daniel's gaze dropped to the locket still clenched in my hand. That locket belonged to your real mother. Inside, there's something she left for you, a clue about your past. My fingers trembled as I fumbled with the clasp. With a soft click, it opened. Inside was a faded photograph of a woman with gentle eyes, holding a newborn baby. My breath caught. The woman looked like me. On the other side of the locket was a tiny piece of folded paper. Carefully, I pulled it out and opened it. In shaky handwriting, it read, "Emily, my love. If you are reading this, it means I couldn't protect you. But know this, you are stronger than the darkness that surrounds our family. Never let them control you. Be free." Tears blurred my vision. My hand shook as I pressed the note against my chest. She knew this would happen. Daniel's hand rested gently on mine. She believed in you. And so do I. Before I could respond, a crack of branches echoed nearby. We froze. Flashlights flickered through the trees. They had found us again. Daniel cursed under his breath. We can't keep running forever. We have to end this. Panic surged through me. How? There are too many of them. He looked at me with a fire in his eyes I had never seen before. Not if we stop being their prey. The footsteps grew closer. My heart hammered against my ribs. Emily, Daniel whispered urgently, you have a choice. You can run again, or you can fight with me. But whatever you do, remember, you are not weak. You never were. Something inside me shifted. The fear that had ruled me for so long began to burn into anger. Into strength. I wiped my tears, my grip on the locket tightening like a promise. I'm not running anymore. The first masked man broke through the trees, his gun raised. Daniel moved fast, tackling him to the ground. I grabbed a branch from the forest floor, swinging it with all my strength at the second man. He staggered back, stunned. More poured in, but I didn't freeze this time. I fought. I screamed. I ran toward them instead of away, my rage giving me power I didn't know I had. The fight was chaos, shouts, gunfire, fists, the sting of branches tearing at my skin. But through it all, I held on to one truth, I wasn't just a victim anymore. Finally, sirens wailed in the distance again. Police cars crashed onto the scene, their lights flooding the forest. The masked men scattered like shadows dissolving in daylight. Daniel grabbed my hand, pulling me against him as the officers swarmed in. His chest heaved, his face battered, but his eyes shone with relief. It's over, he breathed. At least for now. I clutched the locket to my heart, my body trembling with exhaustion. No, I whispered. It's just the beginning. Because now, I knew the truth. I wasn't who I thought I was. But I also wasn't weak. And no matter what came next, no matter how many secrets still waited to be uncovered, I would face them. Not as the broken girl who was bullied in a supermarket. But as someone who finally knew her worth. As someone free. The sirens faded into the night, swallowed by the trees as the last police car pulled away. Daniel and I were left standing in the quiet forest, bruised and bleeding, but alive. I held the locket so tightly in my hand that the metal edges dug into my skin, almost as if it wanted to leave its mark on me. The officers had questioned us briefly, their faces hard, their words clipped. They had taken statements, snapped photos of the scene, and collected weapons from the masked men who had been caught. But even with all their confidence, I knew deep inside, the fight wasn't over. Those men weren't working alone. They were part of something bigger. Something darker. Daniel leaned heavily against a tree, his shirt ripped and blood seeping through the fabric at his side. We need to get you somewhere safe, he muttered. Safe. That word didn't feel real anymore. There's no safe place for me, I whispered back. Not until I know everything. His jaw tightened, his eyes scanning the shadows as if enemies might crawl out at any second. Emily, you've already been through too much. You don't need. I do, I interrupted, my voice sharper than I expected. All my life I've lived in lies. I thought my father was cruel because he didn't love me enough. But now I don't even know who he is. Or who I am. Daniel's gaze softened, but there was still hesitation in his eyes. The truth isn't something you can unhear. I took a shaky step closer, holding the locket up between us. This is all I have left from my real mother. If she believed I could handle it, then so should you. For a long moment, he just looked at me. The silence pressed in like a weight. Finally, with a tired sigh, he nodded. Fine. But if I tell you everything, you have to promise me one thing: no matter what you hear, you won't let it break you. I swallowed hard, my chest rising and falling like waves in a storm. I promise. Daniel straightened slowly, wincing as he touched his side. Your real father, his name was Richard Hale. He wasn't just some man caught up in bad choices. He was one of the most powerful men in an underground network, a web of money, politics, and crime that stretched far beyond the state. People feared him. People obeyed him. But he made enemies, too. Dangerous ones. And when your mother got pregnant, she became a target. My heart hammered in my chest. So, they wanted me dead before I was even born? Daniel nodded grimly. Your father thought giving you up, placing you in another family, was the only way to protect you. He trusted your adoptive parents to keep you safe. But when he was killed, the enemies he made didn't stop. They believed that if they found you, they could use you to finish what they started. I staggered back, the trees spinning around me. All this time, my life wasn't even mine. It was just a shield against a war I didn't even know existed. Daniel reached out, steadying me with a hand on my shoulder. Listen to me. You're not just some pawn in their game. You are stronger than they ever expected. That's why they're scared of you. Tears blurred my vision. Scared of me? You're not just anything, he cut me off firmly. You're the daughter of two people who risked everything. And you survived more in a few weeks than most people could in a lifetime. His words wrapped around me like armor, even as my heart felt like it was breaking all over. I wiped my face with the back of my hand, forcing myself to breathe. Before I could answer, a sound cracked through the woods, like a twig snapping underfoot. Both of us froze. Daniel's hand went to the knife strapped at his belt. Who's there? He called into the darkness. No answer. Then, slowly, a figure stepped out from behind the trees. My heart leapt into my throat. It wasn't another masked man. It was my sister. Sarah? My voice cracked in disbelief. What are you doing here? She looked at me, her eyes wide, her face pale. She wasn't dressed for the woods, she wore jeans and a supermarket hoodie, the same one I had seen her in that horrible day she humiliated me in front of everyone. I followed you, she whispered. Anger and confusion warred inside me. Why? To laugh at me again? To make me feel small while I'm running for my life? Her lips trembled. No. Emily, she broke off, glancing nervously at Daniel. I needed to tell you the truth. My skin prickled with unease. The truth? She nodded slowly, tears spilling down her cheeks. Dad, he told me everything. About you. About how you're not really his daughter. He made me promise never to tell you. But when I saw how he treated you, when I saw how much you were hurting, her voice cracked. I thought maybe if I pushed you away, it would protect you. That if I made you hate me, you wouldn't get dragged deeper into this mess. The air rushed out of my lungs. You knew? All this time? Sarah dropped her head, shame written across her face. I didn't know the whole story. Just that you weren't mine to protect. And I was jealous, too. I'm not proud of it. You were always stronger than me, even when you didn't see it. Dad treated me like the favorite, but deep down, I knew it was because he was hiding the truth from you. Not because he loved me more. I shook my head, stunned. So all the bullying, all the cruel words, that was your way of keeping me safe? I thought if I pushed you far enough, you'd run. That maybe you'd escape before any of this caught up to you," she whispered. But I was wrong. And I'm sorry. The silence between us was heavy, broken only by the sound of my own heartbeat. Daniel studied her with narrowed eyes. Why show up now? Why tell her this here, in the middle of the night, when men are hunting us down? Sarah's hand shook as she reached into her pocket. Slowly, she pulled out a small folded piece of paper. Because they're coming. And this will tell you where to find the truth about Mom. About everything. She held it out to me, her eyes pleading. My fingers hovered over it, hesitation freezing me in place. Could I trust her? Or was this just another trap? Before I could decide, headlights flashed in the distance. The low rumble of engines vibrated through the ground. Daniel cursed under his breath. They found us again. Sarah's face went white. Take it, she begged, shoving the paper into my hand. Please, Emily. You have to finish this. You have to know. The sound of tires skidding echoed through the trees. Doors slammed. Voices shouted. Daniel grabbed my arm, his grip strong. We have to move. Now. I stared at Sarah, torn between rage, sorrow, and the faintest flicker of hope. Are you with us, or against us? I demanded. She swallowed hard, then stepped closer. With you. Always. I may not have shown it before, but you're my sister. And I won't let them take you. Her words pierced through the chaos of my mind. For the first time in forever, I saw something real in her eyes, not jealousy, not cruelty, but fear. And love. The headlights grew brighter, the shouts louder. I clutched the paper tightly in one hand, the locket in the other. This wasn't the end. It was just another beginning. Then we run, I whispered. And together, me, Daniel, and Sarah, we plunged deeper into the night as the hunters closed in. The night swallowed us whole as we tore through the trees, branches snapping beneath our feet, the glow of headlights slicing through the darkness behind us. My lungs burned, each breath ragged, but I didn't dare slow down. Daniel's grip on my arm was iron-tight, dragging me when my legs faltered, and Sarah stumbled close behind, her hoodie snagging on thorns as she fought to keep up. The voices grew louder, men shouting commands, dogs barking, the hum of engines revving as if the forest itself was alive with the hunt. Keep moving. Daniel hissed. Don't look back. But I couldn't help it. I twisted my head just enough to see figures with flashlights fanning out, beams slicing through the trees. They were getting closer. My heart hammered against my ribs. They're going to catch us. Not if we reach the creek, Daniel shot back. Water will hide our scent from the dogs. The creek. I had no idea where it was, but Daniel moved like a man who had memorized every inch of the woods. I clung to his lead, trusting him with every desperate step. Behind me, Sarah tripped, her cry muffled as she fell hard against the ground. I skidded to a stop. Sarah. I spun, rushing back to her. She clutched her ankle, her face twisted in pain. I can't. Before she could finish, flashlights swept dangerously close, the beams catching the edge of her hoodie. Over there, a voice shouted. Panic surged through me. Without thinking, I threw myself down beside her, yanking the hood over her head and pulling her against me. Daniel cursed under his breath. We don't have time. She's my sister. I snapped, my voice sharper than I'd ever heard it. We're not leaving her. For a split second, Daniel's jaw tightened like he wanted to argue, but then his eyes softened. With a grunt, he crouched and lifted Sarah into his arms. Fine. But we run faster. I scrambled to my feet, my legs trembling as I forced them to keep going. Daniel carried Sarah as if she weighed nothing, but the men were closing in. Their voices rang through the trees, too close. Too loud. We crashed through the underbrush until the roar of rushing water reached my ears. The creek. Relief shot through me like a spark of hope. There! Daniel shouted, charging toward the water's edge. The creek was wide, the current fast and churning, moonlight glinting off its surface like broken glass. It wasn't safe, but neither was staying. Go! Daniel barked, thrusting Sarah toward me. I grabbed her hand, steadying her as he waded into the icy water, his face set with grim determination. One step, then another, the freezing current bit into my skin, dragging at my legs. Sarah clung to me, her teeth chattering as the water rose higher. My breath caught as the current nearly swept me off my feet, but Daniel's strong hand steadied me, guiding us across. Behind us, flashlights reached the creek bank. There! There in the water! Gunshots cracked through the night. I screamed, ducking low as a bullet ricocheted off a rock nearby. Sarah sobbed, clutching my arm as we stumbled forward. Daniel's voice cut through the chaos. Downstream! Let the current take us! Before I could protest, he pulled us deeper into the torrent. The icy water surged around me, dragging me off my feet. My body slammed into rocks, branches clawed at my skin, but I clung to Sarah with all the strength I had left. The current swept us away, spinning us out of the flashlight beams, out of the gunman's line of sight. The world became a blur of water and darkness until finally, the creek spat us out into a calmer pool farther downstream. Gasping, coughing, I clawed my way onto the muddy bank, dragging Sarah with me. Daniel staggered out behind us, his chest heaving, his clothes soaked and clinging to his body. For a long moment, none of us spoke. We just lay there, trembling, listening to the night. Finally, Sarah broke the silence, her voice barely above a whisper. They'll never stop, will they? I looked at her, at the fear in her eyes, at the way her body shook with more than just cold. I thought of the folded piece of paper still clenched in my fist, the one she had pressed into my hand before the chase began. I opened it. The paper was smudged from the water, but the words were still legible. An address. A date. A name I didn't recognize. Who is this? I asked, my voice trembling. Sarah swallowed hard. The person who knew Mom best. The one Dad never wanted you to find. If anyone can tell you the truth about her death, about who she really was, it's him. Daniel leaned over my shoulder, his brow furrowed. This name? I know it. He was one of Richard Hale's closest allies. If he's still alive, finding him could answer everything. I closed my eyes, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. All my life, I had lived with questions. And now, for the first time, I had a chance at answers. But it wouldn't come without a cost. We can't go back, I whispered. Not home. Not anywhere they'll look for us. We have to find him. Daniel nodded grimly. Then we moved before sunrise. Sarah reached for my hand, her grip trembling but strong. I'll go with you. No matter what happens. Her words caught me off guard, a warmth blooming in my chest even in the freezing night. For so long, she had been my tormentor, my shadow. Now, she was choosing to stand beside me. But before I could respond, a sound in the distance made my blood run cold. A low hum. Engines. Getting closer. Daniel's face hardened. They're still on our trail. My heart lurched. How? We lost them in the water. No, Daniel said, his jaw clenched. These people, they don't stop. And they don't miss. The night air vibrated with the sound of approaching vehicles, the rumble growing louder, closer. I looked at the paper, at Sarah, at Daniel. Then I shoved it into my pocket and forced myself to stand. We run again, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. And this time, we don't stop until we reach the truth. Daniel grabbed his knife. Sarah pulled her hood tighter. And together, we disappeared into the forest once more as the hunters closed in. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just a chase anymore. This was war. The forest stretched endlessly before us, dark and suffocating, but Daniel kept us moving. Sarah limped at my side, her face pale, her breath shallow. My legs screamed for rest, but I refused to stop. Not when the sound of engines still growled in the distance. Finally, as dawn's gray light bled across the sky, we stumbled out of the woods onto an old gravel road. At the end of it stood a weathered farmhouse, its paint peeling, its porch sagging with age. Daniel slowed, his knife still in hand, scanning the area. "This is the address," he said, his voice low. "If he's here, this is our last chance." My stomach twisted. My mother's note. The name. The hope that had carried us this far, it all pointed to this place. But as we approached, every nerve in my body screamed that it could also be a trap. I knocked, my knuckles trembling. For a long moment, there was silence. Then the door creaked open. An old man stood there, his eyes sharp despite the years etched into his face. He studied us carefully, then his gaze landed on me. His breath caught. You're her daughter," he whispered. Tears pricked my eyes. "You knew my mother?" He nodded slowly, motioning us inside. The farmhouse smelled of dust and wood smoke, its walls lined with faded photographs. He led us to a small table, where he sank into a chair as though the weight of the past had finally caught up with him. "Your mother was brave," he said softly. "She fought against the people who now hunt you. She wanted you to live free, away from the corruption and violence. That's why she left the locket. It was her way of telling you that you are not bound to their darkness." I clutched the locket, tears spilling down my cheeks. Then why did my father, my adoptive father, treat me like I wasn't his? Why did he let me suffer? The old man's gaze hardened. Because he was afraid. Raising you meant being marked. Loving you meant danger. Some men choose fear over love. He leaned forward, his voice trembling. But that does not define you. What defines you is what you choose to do now. For the first time, I felt the truth settle into me like a steady flame. I wasn't just a mistake. I wasn't just the unwanted daughter or the girl bullied in a supermarket. I was my mother's daughter. Stronger than fear. Behind me, Sarah's voice cracked. "Emily. I'm sorry. For everything. For how I treated you. I didn't understand. I didn't know." I turned to her, my heart aching. For years, her words had cut me deeper than any blade. But now, seeing her broken and sincere, I realized something: holding on to anger would only chain me to the past. I reached for her hand. "I forgive you." Her eyes widened, tears spilling down her cheeks. And for the first time, she pulled me into an embrace. Daniel stood guard at the window, watching the horizon. "We can't stay here long," he warned. "They'll find us eventually." The old man nodded. "Then you must leave this life behind. Start fresh. Carry your mother's strength with you, and never let fear decide your path." As the sun broke over the trees, painting the sky in gold, I made my choice. I would not run forever. I would not hide in shame or pain. I would live, freely and fiercely, as the woman my mother believed I could be. We walked out of the farmhouse into the light of a new day. For the first time, I wasn't running from my past. I was walking toward my future.